welcome everybody. We are here at the 24th WFSF World Conference at Humboldt-Carré in Berlin, Germany. We are now on this other session, which is called Analyzing the Impact of the Prospective Process on the Perception of Young People regarding the future of work in Brazil in 2030. The speaker for today's topic is Caroline Lopes from Brazil. She is a master in economics and management of science, technology, and innovation with a focus on futures studies by the Superior Institute of Economics and Management of the University of Lisbon. Other training in foresight and designing ethical futures held in Lisbon, ISEG, and Copenhagen, CIID. Holds an MBA in marketing from the Getulio Vargas Foundation in Brazil. Extensive experience in management, marketing, digital transformation, and foresight in companies in Brazil and Portugal. Member of Teach the Future, so she is a colleague of mine, and this is a global movement dedicated to bringing future literacy to school and students around the world. Entrepreneur and foresight consultant by GIA Futurabilidade. Undergraduate professor at IDP, Brazilian Institute of Education, Development, and Research in Brasilia, Brazil. So welcome, Caroline. Welcome, everybody. It's nice to see you here, and the microphone is all yours.
Thank you, Aletia. Hello, everyone. I'm very happy to be here. Here is good afternoon, at the beginning of afternoon here. And I'm going to present to you the research I conducted as the final research project of my master's degree in economics and science, technology, and innovation management at the University of Lisbon. The objective of this research, just let me check here if it's okay. Yes. The objective of this research was to analyze the impact of exploring emerging signs of young people's expectations regarding the future of work in Brazil in 2030, and to identify whether the exploration of emerging signs in alternative future scenarios in that context changed the young people's expectations in any way, in terms of attitude, impact, optimism about their careers, and if it has contributed to broadening critical thinking about their futures. According to estimates by the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, OECD, young people between 15 and 24 years old will be one of the groups most affected by the transformations taking place right now in the world of work. And as presented by Novella et al. 2018, the school-to-work transition is characterized by uncertainties and misinformation about the labor market, and it is essential to strengthen systems guidance information about work so that young people can make their education and professional decisions in an efficient and informed manner. It also is very important for governments and for us to create public policies. Recently in Brazil, the National Common Curriculum Base that defines the mandatory learning that students must develop throughout the basic education and higher education was changed, and it included the role of the student in learning and the construction of their life project as an essential part of higher education. Quote this reform in the curriculum, the common curriculum. In this way, the life project is what students aspire, plan, and redefine for themselves throughout their trajectory, and a construction that accompanies the development of their identity. So designing a life project that guides young people's learning when the world of work is full of uncertainties, not to mention the changes the COVID-19 pandemic has caused in educational, political, economic and health systems, social systems, is an enormous challenge. So in this context, which images of futures are being nurtured by these young people? for me, that was the main question, what motivated me for this research. That is one of the reasons that why I chose to base my research on the future of work and young people. Furthermore, the future of work is very broad, and it was necessary to delimit the focus on the skills that will be indispensable in the future of work, also ensuring a perfect relationship with young people in the school to work transition. Brazil was chosen as the geography for this study because it is my nationality, and the research sample does not statistically represents the population of Brazil, considering that it was built based on my network of contacts. It was decided to analyze the horizon of 10 years, as it is a sufficient period for major changes to occur, and most of the materials available, reports, research about the future of work have the same time horizon. About future studies can be applied in educational background to encourage young people to acquire proactive skills and feel more motivated about the future. According to Slaughter, 1987, it is also possible to acquire a sense of purpose and direction, and to encourage more critical choices and the development of strategies. So with using future studies. So the author also remarks that a better vision of the future already changes the way we act in the present, as there is an incentive to empowerment. Other research involved prospective work with young people as presented by Eckersley, Hicks, and others conducted in Australia, United States, Germany, and Taiwan. So the theories involved more related to this present work includes
Okay. Very hear you well. If you could please repeat that, because you were like, you know.
Okay. Do you remember the last thing that I said?
Like, you know, like 3 lines ago, more or less.
Sorry, I didn't get that.
Like 3 ideas before.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I'll talk about the future studies. Future studies can be applied in educational background to encourage young people to think about the future, to acquire more proactive skills and feel more motivated. And according to Slaughter, anticipation encourage action. So it can help young people to acquire a sense of purpose, a direction, and to encourage them to have more critical choices and develop some strategies about the future. So the author, Slaughter, also remarks that a better vision of the future already changes the way we act in the present, as there is an incentive to empowerment. Other research were conducted in Australia, United States, Germany, Taiwan. Other research, including with future studies and young people, were also conducted by Eckersley and Hicks, for an example. And about futures literacy, this work is based most on future literacy and scenario planning. And we can mention here the work that Teach the Future do. It's a global movement, and that aims, Teach the Future aims to, actually, it has a playbook that talks about futures literacy, but not only this, that presents a way to include futures literacy in schools and in the work with educators, students, families. There is a lot of exercise that can be done. Furthermore, based on the concept presented by Rio Miller about futures literacy, it is a way of developing skills that allows them, the young people, to read and write for the future, so them to better understand the role that the future plays in their lives, for them to be able to design their life project. The life project that the basic common curriculum in Brazil was changed. So this research was divided in 3 phases. I conduct a pre-workshop questionnaire, an online workshop, and a post-workshop questionnaire applied only with the workshop participants. All of them online due to restrictions imposed by COVID-19, and the participation in the research was due to adhesion to invitations sent by the researcher to teachers, coordinators of secondary and higher education schools, my network of contacts, group of young people, and I published also on a website and an Instagram social profile, a profile created specifically for this research. The first questionnaire was divided into two sections, social demographic profile and future expectations, and had 19 questions. The objective of asking social demographic questions was to analyze whether there is any correlation between social demographic profile and the vision of the future of young people. In the section expectation about the future, it was expected to identify if the expectation of the future is going to a better or a worse place, identify the level of influence that the young people believe they have, what worries them, what excites them about the future, and some other questions. Extensive research related to the drivers of change and skills needed in the future of work was carried out to build the questions. So in the literature review resulted the 18 drivers of change that could impact the future of work and 15 skills sets that will change. In the second phase, at the end of the questionnaire, participants were invited to report some interest to participate in this online workshop to explore emerging signs in alternative future scenarios. Those alternative scenarios were used I didn't create these scenarios. Those scenarios were presented in the Lisbon Roadmap for the Future of Work, conducted in 2019. So those scenarios describe different ways in which society, education, systems, the economy were reorganized in the face of rapid technological evolution, technological evolution, job automation, unemployment, and the growth of green economy, building different labor markets in 2030. In the first stage of the workshop, the research objectives, the workshop structure, and an introduction to important concepts were presented, providing a necessary basis for the participants to explore emerging signals, megatrends, weak signals, wildcards, and uncertainties. Afterward, the drivers of change that impact the future of work in Brazil in 2030 were presented. And subsequently, we proceed to explore emerging signals, weak signals, trends with the young people, the participants, using the STEEP framework. So society, technology, economy, environment, and politics, to broaden the participants' critical thinking. The participants were divided in 4 groups. Each group was given one different alternative future scenario, and they were asked to think about some topics, such as, how is this scenario different from the world we live today? What signs in the present or pieces of evidence can lead the world to this scenario? It is negative for everyone or just for some, and some other questions. And at the end of this task, the groups presented their conclusions. Reality.
Once again, we are having troubles with your audio.
Okay, so I think I'm going to change the internet, maybe.
Maybe if you wish. It's not like too much, but it begins to, like to toggle.
Do you remember where what I have to repeat at the end? Do you remember?
Yeah, it was not a lot, like 5 words or so. This was not a lot.
Okay, just a second. I'll put here in my phone.
Yeah, sure. In the meantime, I will remind our attendees that you can make your questions at the end of this session through the chat. Okay? So please, Carolini, tell us when you are ready.
Okay, are you listening to me again?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so I changed the internet. Okay, I was talking about the workshop. We divided the participants into 4 groups, each group with a different scenario, and we asked some questions about the scenarios for them to think about the future. What signs in the present or pieces of evidence can lead the world to the scenario? What's the difference from the reality, the present, to this future scenario? It is negative for everyone or just for some, and some questions for make them think. And at the end of this task, the groups presented their conclusions about the scenarios. We encouraged them to indicate some similarities and difference between the scenarios. After the workshop, we applied a post-workshop questionnaire with 10 questions only for those who participated in the workshop in an attempt to identify whether the exploration of emerging science in alternative future scenarios in the context of the future of work in Brazil in 2030 changed in any way. 5 questions could be compared for the first questionnaire, so we could compare if they changed their mind in any way. So going deeper into the results because of time, the first questionnaire was answered by 193 young Brazilians from 9 Brazilian states, different states. We have that most respondents, 74%, are between 15 and 19 years old. 61% are female gender, 96% study, 71% do not work, 61% are white, the other 30% are brown or black, and 68% are from low income. Okay, 72% perceive the future as something that will occur between 1 and 5 years from now. And that answer changed compared with gender. So regarding the perception of future directions, actually this perception of the future changes when evaluated together with gender. So 42% of female participants believe that the future occurs in 1 year. And the male, that are 49%, believe that the future will occur in 5 years. Of course, we don't know why, but it was a different question, answer. Regarding the perception of the future direction of work in Brazil, there is a difference between the average scores from males and females. Females presenting a more pessimistic sample mean than males. So it was a difference in the first question. As for the level of confidence with their career, it was also found a difference between males and females, with a positive difference in the sample average of for the males. They are more confident about their careers. The participants are more confident about their careers in general, then they believe that the future is heading in a better direction. So about their careers, the average response was 7.19, but if the future is heading in a better direction was 5.79, and they have the power to, and about the question, about the power to influence the future, the average was 6, as this table presented here. So assessing the concern of young people about the future of work, it is noted that the main concerns are if they will have employee opportunities, if the labor market is going to change, the competition in the labor market, and how the market will be for them, their areas of interest. There was something important here it's important for me to note that the portion of respondents, 8%, indicated that nothing excites them about the future. It was an open question. So 8%, I think it's a big percentage for them to say that nothing excites them about the future. Those same respondents believe that the future of work in Brazil is heading into a worse direction, with an average of 4.63 below the overall average. So it's maybe it's something that's worth some better investigation. About the second survey, the workshop, we are in COVID-19, so although more than, okay, here. So although more than half of participants showed interest in participating in the workshop. Only 3% participated in the workshop, maybe because of no internet or no gadgets to participate in the workshop. Okay, all the research conducted in 2020 with young Brazilians showed some things about this. The main challenges for studying at home during the pandemic were emotional balance, the difficulty of organizing distant learning, and the lack of peaceful environment at home. Going deeper in the results of the workshop, here's some results that the young participants showed some worries. They bring some that Brazilian political scenario increased nationalism and conservatism that can bring some civil war of the end of the democracy in Brazil as a wild card. Another uncertainty about space industry advancement here in Brazil. We can call an uncertainty because we don't know if it's going to be investment enough to this. And something about the workshop, they indicated the proximity between the scenarios that were surprising. It was possible to identify weak signals of possible trends, seeing more possibilities of what can happen. They can study each of them in the present to plan and make more conscious choice. According to them, it was easy to see the scenarios possible and at the same time difficult to separate what was real from what was the scenario, since many things were possible to happen. Such feedback demonstrates the ability of the scenarios to engage the participant through the narrative. Some difficulties were presented, such as considering multiple variables at the same time, talking about some points of the scenario that they were not aware of. And although there was a moment of training and sensitization at the beginning of workshop, these comments demonstrate that it was not enough. So leading the participants to think about actions based on the insights generated in the workshop, they were also asked about what they could do in the present. And some of responses. I think the big key to the changes we want for the future is in the choices we make in the present, and for these choices to be made consciously and correctly, is necessary to seek knowledge and studies in different areas. More practical and everyday actions, such as consumption decisions, were also addressed, like, quote, searching for companies to enter the labor market that is following my values, that think about social issues, for example. So heading to the conclusion, in the third phase, we conducted another questionnaire to compare their responses with the first questionnaire. So regarding the expectations of whether the future is going in a better or worse direction, the average increased of the workshop. Regarding the power to influence the future of work, the average also increased of the workshop. And as well as the level of confidence regarding their career in 2030, increasing from 7.8 to 8. It's a little bit different. The other ones were better. So the 3 main questions got better results, which may indicate that exploring emerging signals collectively with young people can support the development of agency in the future and contribute to broadening critical thinking. Furthermore, such exercise helped them to visualize better futures, which in this context is of great value. The exploration of alternative future scenarios by young people presents a way of teaching them to read and write for the future, developing that skill, the future's literacy, that allows them to better understand their role in the future. As a suggestion for future research, the process used in this work showed an interesting potential and could be replicated in more favorable context. The nothing answer to the question about what excites them in the future can indicate something relevant. So it's since it's possible to replicate this research with a large number of young people, it is possible to assess whether there is an exceptional behavior or a sign that requires attention. Of course, there are other limitations such as the convenience sample, low diversity, low adherence to the workshop. It was a problem since COVID-19 changed a lot the educational system. And the use of the web offers the opportunity to base, but although it limits those without internet or some gadgets. So very fast, that was the work I conducted with University of Lisbon as my master's research. I really appreciate the opportunity to present for you this research that I carried out with young Brazilians, expanding the Latin American participation in international events, as well as being part of a body of researchers that is growing here in Brazil. And I'm available for doubts, questions, suggestions. Thank you a lot.
Thank you, Caroline. This is great. So please, if anybody has a question, please write it in the chat. We have 4 minutes before the next topic. We are having our next speaker here. Hi, Marguerite. Okay, so before that, any questions, comments, please, regarding Caroline's presentation? Okay, it seems that nobody has questions, Caroline. Do you want to add something else?
It was very nice to conduct this research with young people, because I really think that this transition, school to work, it's really hard for them. And the world today is filled by a lot of uncertainty. Brazil is not facing a good reality right now. So I want to conduct another research with the same methodology, of course, improving this methodology, but asking what are their images about the future with more young participants, Brazilian participants. Thank you very much, Aletia.
Thanks to you. And actually, Brazil is a very active country from Latin America regarding foresight or future studies, or prospectiva, as we know this. So in Brazil is known as futurismo, right? Futurologia.
Yes, we fight with a lot of words, actually. It's futurismo, futurologia, prospectiva. We can use also in Portugal, they use prospectiva. It's the French perspective.
Yeah, it's also here in Latin, Mexico, Colombia, Venezuela, is perspectiva. Okay, so great, Caroline, great presentation, great work. And it's also a proud to have Latin people speaking, because sometimes we as Latins are most unknown of what we do about futures. So it's really important that here in an international conference, it is known and shared what Latins are doing. So we have a lot of talent, of course, in other countries too, but Latin America is still some sort of unknown in future. So thanks for sharing this, Caroline.
Thank you very much.
Nice to have you.